Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Newsgram. Shinete Christina Maunze was born in Zimbabwe and educated in London. She's an interesting woman with a fascinating story to tell. So she did, in her new book, Slaves of the One They Chose to Obey, A Family Torn Apart. This is the true story of her family and how it was destroyed by unscrupulous, ungodly prophecies, false prophets, and witch doctors.
It has torn my family apart. I know of people who have read my book and said, oh, that's what happens in my family. That's what happened. But I'm talking about my family. That's why I'm so emotional about it.
An important takeaway here is that you don't have to be from Zimbabwe to believe in witch doctors. We put our faith and trust in the wrong hands every day, right here in America. People are misled all the time, and there's not much we can do about it on this episode of Newsgram. But if you look for similarities between your culture and Shinete's, you'll probably find them. Her story is about a once loving family who learned to hate each other enough to hire hitmen to poison each other's children, all in the name of the prophets and witch doctors.
Witch doctors, prophets, or diviners, these are people who explain phenomena or misfortunes that happen in families. And for every misfortune, families who don't believe in God, they think their misfortunes can be explained by these diviners.
Her father didn't believe in diviners, but he wasn't a Christian either. Sometimes he'd visit mediums, attempting to find explanations for the sickness and misfortunes that were affecting their family. During the consultation, the results were always the same. They lied to him. So he refused to pay their fee, and then one day her father's best friend, Mangidi, paid him a visit.
Mangidi killed my father. Of course, he didn't believe in God. That's why he was easily manipulated by people who don't believe in God to kill somebody else who was like my father.
She says the witch doctors and false prophets' sole aim is to gain power and control over their victims by instilling fear and confusion in their minds.
When they go to them, they expect to be told the culprit who is responsible for the misfortune. If somebody dies in the family, there must be somebody responsible for it. If somebody is sick, there must be somebody responsible for it. And these diviners never fail to get somebody to blame. And it's normally somebody with very close within the family. Is the brother, is the aunt, is the sister who is responsible. And this has torn families apart.
These are good people, trusting people who came to them for help. People like her niece.
My niece, Scarlett, she could have just divorced the husband, but she was afraid because of what is expected of young women in our society. She ended up getting rid of so many pregnancies, one of which killed her.
She offers a more thorough explanation of what happened to her family in her book, Slaves of the One They Chose to Obey, A Family Torn Apart. Who do you turn to when you have questions? Where do you go for counseling? Who do you pray to? These are all deeply personal and highly individual, so it's important to keep an open mind. Depending on your beliefs, seeking the advice of a cult leader, a medium, or a witch doctor may seem like a logical solution. It's why she wrote this book.
People have got to know what is happening. I know nobody wants to talk about these witch doctors, prophets, in case you get a curse. That's what people think. I said people have got to know what is happening in families.
And a great way to spread the word is by writing a book. Now that that's done, let's lighten things up a little bit. One thing I thought was interesting was the Zimbabwe equivalent of bar hopping. Shinete calls them beer parties.
There are two types of beer parties. There are beer parties which are organized in order to fundraise. They sell all sorts of things, beers, even sweets. And then there are some where they are organized in order to get help from the neighbors. So you can brew beer and call the neighbors from the next village, from your village. They come and help you with the harvest. And you have to provide food for them, beer for them, and they help you out.
A community working together for the enjoyment of beer. A beer party sounds pretty good right now. Let's all go out to our villages, brew some beer, bring in the harvest, and talk about ways to unite our global community. The book, Slaves of the One They Chose to Obey, is available right now, and there's a link to it in the show notes. And that'll do it for this edition of Newsgram.